Peeking is mainly done in three different types of ways. First, aim down sight. Second, hit fire, then you ADS when you see the enemy. And third is sprint peeking. Now, each way has its advantages and disadvantages and reasons to use it. Aiming down sights, if you do so, your strafe speed is decreased. What that means is you're slower when you're moving, and the enemy will see you before you see the enemy. The only time you want to be aiming down sights and peeking is in large battles, when you want to peek as tight as possible to make it all 1v1s, even though it's a large battle. Another thing about it is you don't want to be aim down sight peeking unless you have friendlies in front of you. So when you aim down sight peek, you're doing it at a very tight angle, and you're doing it because, hey, it doesn't matter if the enemy sees me first, because he's not shooting at me, he's shooting at my friendlies in front of me. The second way to peek, hip fire peeking, is usually done when you are by yourself, when you don't have the teammates in front of you to play off of, but at the same time, you have multiple enemies to peek into. If it's you're by yourself and 3 enemies, what you do is you hit fire peek, because you can play a lot tighter very easily, and make it all the 1v3 into multiple 1v1s, and at the same time you're not aiming down sights, so you usually see the enemy around the same time he sees you, depending on ping. Unlike with aiming down sights, where he sees you first, like no matter what, for the most part. It's basically usable in just trying to whittle enemies down, playing tight off of corners. And the last way and the best way is sprint peeking. Okay. Now sprint peeking, what you usually do is you sprint around the corner when you see the enemy, you stand still, you put your crosshair on his head, and you kill him. Okay? Now, it's a lot harder to sprint peek, so honestly I would hit fire peek, and then once you get good enough, then go into sprint peeking. The reason why you sprint peek is because if you sprint around the corner, you'll see the enemy before he sees you, so you have an advantage in this fight. Now, the reason why this is so powerful is because if you're pre-aiming the corner, you already have your crosshair on his head, and it's a 1v1 because you're not playing too wide out. You're not sprint peeking over here, exposing yourself to all the enemies. You're sprint peeking very tight. You're able to have your crosshair on the enemy's head and have, depending on your ping and his, around the ballpark of like a quarter to half a second advantage in a game where time to kill is 0.45 seconds. You can theoretically kill someone, depending on your ping, before he sees you. That's why it feels like sometimes you're just getting killed instantly. It's because technically you are. Now, the one thing you have to understand about sprint peeking is you don't want to be tight on the corner and sprint peek out, because a lot of times you're fully exposed, and also when you run back into cover, you're going to clip on the corner that you peeked out of. Instead, you want to wide peek from back far, track the corner, run into it, and then see the enemy. It's a lot more efficient where you track the corner and you kind of run in towards it, okay? You don't want to be running around it sprint peeking a lot of times, because you expose too much of your body. Now, you can expose all of your body as long as, there's multiple people peeking with you. In team play, it's totally different, but for 1v1s, realistically, you want to be sprint peeking into the corner a lot of the times.